Rover Annual for Boys, Issue 9, Year 1934. If you find a copy, like your grandfather kept it or something, I mean if you find a copy, just don't let it out of your sight. Even when I was growing up, it was always in the window. Of course, I didn't know then I'd end up working here. Beresford's antiquarian booksellers. I never thought it was for real. It couldn't possibly make any money. Some sad old fanatic owned it and kept it as a homage to his desperately lonely boarding school upbringing. I didn't think people actually went in, actually bought stuff. You would be amazed at the number of people interested in old comics. Of course, I always thought that Rover Annual for Boys Issue 9 Year 1934 was always in the window because nobody would ever want to buy it. It didn't occur to me that it would have its own alarm, that it would be almost priceless. Always looked a bit battered to me. Although, I suppose the pirate on the front was quite colourful. Mr. Beresford said, "You should never underestimate primary colours when it comes to determining the value of antiquarian annuals." Apparently, the combination of red and yellow alone could add as much as £25 to the asking price. Or, so Mr. Beresford says. And he should know, he's old enough to have written the bloody things. He's funny, is Mr. Beresford. Odd. There's something about his past. At least, I think there must be. It's the way he looks at you sideways, like he doesn't need his glasses. Oh yes, he's a sly old fox, is Mr. Beresford. So, when this customer comes in and asks to buy it, to actually buy Rover Annual for Boys, Issue 9, Year 1934, well, Mr. Beresford hadn't trained me for that. Oh no, I don't think Mr. Beresford had even considered that eventuality, to be honest. Which is surprising, considering Mr. Beresford wouldn't even let me make the tea until he'd shown me how to fold the tea bags in the tin, so as to maximise space. Well, I asked this customer to wait and go out back because, well, Mr. Beresford always watches Bargain Hunt at 12:15. He says it's an occupational necessity and that it gives him a good idea of the direction prices are taken. Although I've never seen them selling battered old graphic novels on Bargain Hunt. Still, I suppose there must be a link between the antiquarian and the antique markets. Otherwise, I'm sure Mr. Beresford would help me in the shop. So anyway, normally Mr. Beresford doesn't like to be disturbed. But today, he was out there like a shot, faster than a vegan out of a butcher's. I've never seen Mr. Beresford so excited. Obviously, not counting the time that Sue Lawley wore suspenders on children in need. But we all talked about that because that was, well, it was unexpected, wasn't it? Still, I suppose it was for charity. Anyway, Mr. Beresford was like a whirlwind of negotiation. He was like Alan Sugar selling Amstrad to Applemac. He was like, "It's not for sale." And the customer was like, "Everything has its price." And Mr. Beresford was like, "I think you'll find that the Rover Annual for Boys, Issue 9, Year 1934, isn't everything. Oh no, this is the only known copy of Rover Annual for Boys, Issue 9, Year 1934 in existence." He said, "It's not for sale." Well, turns out the customer knows this. That he's a seasoned collector, that he knows everything there is to know about antiquarian annuals. Turns out He owns every other publication printed between the years of 1908 to 1964, which Mr. Beresford said is the golden period of annuals. For boys, that is. The girls' golden period is later and quite a bit shorter, which is interesting. Well, when it was over, Mr. Beresford was elated. By the time the customer had left, he had traded his entire collection for just that one book. Hundreds of thousands of pounds worth, including Wizard Annual Issue 3 year 1941, which is almost as rare as the World Annual for Boys Issue 9 year 1934. Mr. Beresford said he'd never have to look for stock again, that this would see him through to his retirement. He said, "I have just secured a copy of every important boys' publication in the entire 20th century. This is now the best antiquarian comic, annual or graphic novel shop in the Western Hemisphere." Why someone would be so stupid as to trade such a massive collection for just one book is beyond me. I don't think he could understand it. To be honest, I couldn't either, really. So I said, "I suppose he'll have to start from scratch again now, won't he?" And Mr. Beresford said, "Well, I won't. After that deal, there isn't a boy's comic or annual that I can't supply." And I thought, no, you're right. Except World Annual for Boys, Issue 9 year 1934. You haven't got that, I thought. I suppose it makes sense. Well, if you're going to start a collection, you might as well start with the hardest thing to find first. After that, it's all downhill from there, isn't it? So if you see it, it's got a pirate on the front. I mean, if you see it, just don't let it out of your sight.
Excuse me. Do you have this in the original Spanish?
No.